The lawmakers seem to have ended in a deadlock when they try to come to an agreement as to what mode of transmission of results should be. And we've heard from INEC, they said, well, we are capable. Some of the lawmakers said that INEC do not have the capacity, or rather, they will have to seek or consult the NCC to be able to finalize on that. Meanwhile, the INEC have said that we have done it in several elections. We are capable of doing that. That is generating controversy. Where does the CDD stand on this?
Well, thanks for bringing up this topic. It's a topic for the moment, topic that is really generating a lot of conversation, maybe not controversy. I think, just to put it in perspective, it's the Senate that doesn't want electronic transmission results. However, the House of Reps already agreed. So that is why the deadlock in court is going to be resolved by the conference committee, which is already been set up. The Senate already did that. They've set up their own conference committee. Once the House of Reps does their own committee, they will have to then meet to look at those areas. So at the civil society level, we are proposing some very, excuse me, some very good proposal in terms of there are certain clauses that the Senate proposed that is better for Nigerian states. While the House of Reps, there are also some proposals that we think that a conference committee can look at that and then harmonize. For example, the Senate proposes electronic device to be introduced into election, electronic device to be introduced into the election without necessarily quoting the name of the electronic device, as we used to have, like you say, smart card reader or zip-pad, what we now have, like you mentioned, the beavers. So you don't have to write that in the law. You just say electronic device. That's the Senate. For the House of Reps, in clause 52, that's where the bulk of the argument is, and that's where CDD stands. The clause 52 by the House of Reps is saying that INEC can decide on any means of transmission of results, which means INEC can decide, because it's actually INEC decision to make and not the NCC's decision. Again, when we subject INEC, that is supposed to be an independent National Electoral Commission, you subject that their decision to the National Communication Commission, it becomes questionable. How do I mean? INEC is a product of the Nigerian Constitution. The NCC is a product of the Parliament. It's an act of Parliament that established the NCC. The Constitution established INEC. The same way the Constitution empowered the National Assembly, established the National Assembly. It's like someday the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will say that the National Assembly decision will be subject to the 36th state parliament before a decision can be taken. You have reduced that power given to the National Assembly by the Constitution. And I think what the National Assembly need to do is what they already started doing, which is a normal. When there's conflict in the proposal passed by the House of Reps and the Senate, they will set up a conference committee to harmonize both. And that's exactly what's already been happening. So we are calling on the House of Reps to quickly set up the House, but we are from CDD point of view, the clause 52 by the House of Reps is the way to go. Maybe in the course of this conversation, we'll try to explain why it matters for us to do the electronic voting, which has been agreed. Both House, the Senate, and the House of Reps did agree on electronic voting. We have passed that stage. The only part of controversy or contention is the transmission of results.
So, what are some of the gray areas that you think needs to be addressed in our electoral laws to be able to have an effective electoral process coming 2023?
Fantastic. Let's go down memory lane. There was a time in this country where people were still voting, and they could be deciding who has won an election. In 2007, after now late President Musa Yar'Adua came to power, he acknowledged that the election that was brought into power was saddled with irregularities, and he made a decision, fantastic decision, to clean up the electoral process. And one of the decisions, or the outcome of that decision, was the setting up of the Waste Committee. Very fantastic committee. And the committee proposed some very strong recommendations, including the appointment of the INEC chair, including some electoral regime that will improve on our system. Those reforms did not find their way into the act until gradually one of the proposals to this electoral amendment that is ongoing, the Electoral Amendment 2021, Electoral Act 2021 bill, was taken from the Waste Committee, even though not all, but at least we are going somewhere. Why do we need electronic voting and transmission? We have had a lot of arguments, strong argument you may call it. There is no internet in the country, all of that and all of that. So let me put it here. The cost of running an election in this country, if we don't take care, we'll borrow to run 2023 election. The money spent in printing ballot papers in this country is enough to feed a state, maybe a day or two. Maybe a day or two. Let me just try. Let me exaggerate. Let me paint just the small corner of it. Taking 2019 as an example. There were 84 million plus registered voters on the voter register in 2019. Usually, INEC will print more than the people, just in case there are ballot paper that is not good. You know, there are usually errors. So INEC is not God. There is no perfection in printing any product. Even your iPhone, if you have 100 iPhone, the possibility that there's one that will be defective is there. INEC will need to print like 100. In case even the voter who made a mistake with the ballot paper can actually change it, is allowed. Is within the purview. Let's assume INEC printed 100 million ballot paper. 84 plus registered voters printed addition just to create room for those lapses. 100 million. If you look at the figures that was declared in the 2019 election, President Buhari won with about 15 million, above 15 million votes. Atiku vote was about less than 12 million. Let's say 12 million. Then all the others was less than a million. 15, 12, and maybe 1 is less than 30 million. Which means we printed 100 million ballot papers. 30 million were used. Now make a picture. 70 million were not used. Now let's try to monetize that 70 million ballot papers. One ballot paper may cost INEC. I don't have an idea, but let me give you what the ballot paper look like. The ballot paper is a currency level ballot paper. It is to avoid manipulation by politicians. Mm-hmm. So the ballot paper for polling unit 1 is not almost, it's the same ballot paper, but there's a code on each polling unit that you cannot take this polling unit ballot paper to the next polling unit. Is to avoid politicians years ago, 2007, 2011, that people carry ballot paper from one polling unit, took it to another to print and all of that. And that was why, if you observe after a while, there's been a drop in ballot box stuffing because it's no longer working. You can't take polling unit a ballot paper to another. It will be detected. And they don't print it in this country. If you remember in 2019, it was logistical challenge that led to the postponement of the election. Midnight to the election. Materials had not got to far north, far south because of the logistic challenge in bringing them on board. Let's assume, by mere philosophy, to say each ballot paper, because you are printing more, economics say more, the more you print, the less the price. Let's assume that each ballot paper will cost INEC 50 naira. Imagine 50 naira times 100 million. I don't know the math, but people listening will know the math. You can do it. You have your computer, you have your phone. Now let's break it down to say it is 1 naira, because that will be easy for my mathematics. 50 naira, 4 ballot paper per one. It means that we printed ballot paper for 100 million. Mm-hmm. Right? 100 million ballot paper, 100 naira, 100 million. 30 million were used. 70 million were not used. If you then try to look at that holistically, you find out that you actually you wasted 70 million naira.
So there's a problem with high cost of running election and all of that.
Because of the politicians who will always have a way to manipulate the process. So the more you get sophisticated, the more you try to reduce the manipulation. And you need money to improve on the sophistication.
So you feel that this electronic voting system will, drop the costs?
So over time, people may look at, but the cost, what about the cost of the machine? The cost of the machine is important to note. Let's assume too, that in each polling unit where you have one machine, because you are not going to have two, or maybe you may have two, but it has to be somewhere, but you are not going to have two readily standing, because right now we have about 150-something thousand polling units across the country, and it may go for like 200,000 device. Over time, because it's going to be like a sunk cost. Once you procure them, all you needed to do maybe is to update the apps, just like your phone or whatever. The cost of that procurement is constant over a period of time. So when we use this 2023 election, don't forget, there will be immediately Kogi and Bayelsa election. The cost of those ballot paper goes into that cost of procuring that machine. Afterwards, we're going to have Ondo and Edo election. The cost of those ballot paper goes into that machine. Afterwards, you're going to have Anambra election, which is coming up in about 40 days in Anambra State. The cost of that will go in. They say we're going to have Ekiti and Osun just before the 2027 election. So over a period of time, you're going to see a nosediving of the cost of election. Again, that is for electronic voting. We are taking care of ballot papers. What about transmission? The Senate is saying there's no need for transmission, just vote is fine. Then you then transmit. Where do you now take that to? Where are you going to, you now write results, you tabulate, you automate, which is very good because that automation is very important. Just before I go ahead on that, let me quickly tell you why automation is important. If you pay attention to the ICC, International Conference Center, where they were returning candidates or they were going to declare the national election, there was one professor who was battling with figures. We have passed that stage. We have passed that stage where we need to begin to look at 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2. Systems are taking over that. Put them, let the system automate them. You just click on sum up and it gives you total. It reduces the time. Time is money. The time that our poll officials spend trying to calculate and cancel and rewrite, and if sometimes you see election result, you will weep for Nigeria. You will weep for our young folks who did the job. What are they doing? They write, 20 + 20 is 48. Oh, 48. No, it's 50. It cancel 50. No, it's 30. Did you blame them? No. Election anxiety is there. Tension is there. Have you ever been?
All kinds of human errors.
All kinds of. In fact, have you ever been in an examination hall where it is 1 minute to pens up, and they say pens up, and you have not finished your work? Do you know at that moment the kind of urine that will greet you? You start folding your leg. It's not, that thing did not. It comes by your. It just come in after you submit. The thing just goes off. I've had occasion where people in an examination hall, when they say pens up, the next is that, please, help me to spell it. Help me to spell it. It's spelling the it, but it doesn't know because the tension is there. Election situation is like that, my brother. I've seen it.
So sad.
I've seen it.
Yes, it's natural.
It's a natural phenomenon.
Yes.
Let's not put our young folks under that situation. Let's stop blaming them. Do you know the enormous work that they look around them? They are not from the area where they are conducting those polls. These are young folks, young core members. They look around them. They see some kind of fierce-looking young men who are waiting. Okay. The fear will not make them do the wrong thing. In my opinion, I'm not making any case for them. Now, that is the way you transfer those errors from the polling unit level. You transfer it to the collation center. You transfer it to the state level. You then transfer it to the national level. That's what you saw the professor.
At every level, there is likely to be also another error.
They keep making the errors. And that was what the professors was battling with. when they were in the full glare of the global community. Everybody was watching. A professor was calculating using ruler. Can I have light? They were bringing light. It was not the professor's fault. Garbage in, garbage out. That's what the system is.